All right, my name is Camille, and let's just say I'm over 30, and I've been riding for about 20 years. Started out as a little girl begging my mom to take me over to a friend's house to ride their horses, and then bought my first horse when I was 19 with leftover book and tuition money. It was like a 6-month-old colt, so that's how I started. Al's equipment, the double reins, have helped me with several different horses in different disciplines, English and Western. And I'm just starting to use the double reins with my latest interest, which is learning how to play polo. Um, I also have an Australian saddle. I grew up riding Western and have taken English lessons, so I own a Western saddle and an English saddle. The Australian saddle, I feel, is a great combination of all of them. You have the close contact to your horse, but the security of the different features on the Australian saddle. And so the two combined with a helmet and Al's knowledge have helped me become a better rider and have helped me improve communication to my horses with whatever we're doing together. I've used Al's method with a couple of different horses. One horse in particular that I noticed marked improvement was a thoroughbred that I had purchased to learn how to jump with, and he was always very strong, very pulling on me, and I would be worn out after riding that horse, and he did run off with me a few times. So he was one of the horses I brought over here for a lesson with Al. He took to it fairly quickly. It was only about 20 minutes. And then I took him from here, continued to ride him in the Australian saddle because I had to start over regaining my confidence. Started him again just in the saddle with a double rein and just walking, trotting, and cantering. And he did try some of his former stunts with me, and I was able to gather him back up and to keep going. Whereas before we would have had a tug of war, and I would have been terrified at the end of all of it. Different horse, completely different horse for me, very successful. The horse I'm riding currently did a lot of head tossing and does tend to get scared at things. So sometimes out of the blue he'll just whoosh to the side, and I find, did I stay on, did I fall off, I don't know. This horse has worked beautifully with the double reins, and we've progressed from the rings to what Al calls the rollers. So the level of collection that I have with him in the communication is, I've never experienced riding a horse like that. He's a very good horse, very athletic. He's got a lot of natural ability, and excuse me, with Al's training techniques, this particular horse is just like a dream to ride. Power steering, smooth as glass, collects out from underneath him. I've hit a polo ball off of him. I know I could sort cattle. We've jumped over little jumps. We've gone through water holes, over hills and ditches, and Al's system in the saddle and just time using his methods have just been a lot of fun with that particular horse. The shortest time that I've collected a horse using Al's method would probably be about 20 minutes. I've collected myself 4 different horses, and they varied from 20 to 30, 40 minutes, like Al shows in his demonstrations and what was seen today. I've watched other friends also do it. Some have taken 30 minutes, some have taken an hour. But if you're consistent with it and you can get it done in that day. Half a day, that's too long. 2 hours, I think that's too long. An hour, I've never seen one that needed an hour, and I've seen a few. I would say about an hour and a half, but that was the exception. Okay, the difference between riding the horses that I have before Al's method and after Al's method, some have been very strong, constantly pulling the reins. I had a hard time just keeping control of them, to head tossing, as far as to be very heavy on the front end, very sluggish in turning and stopping, hard time pivoting. After Al's method, the having them under control, working off their hind end, they're very light, they're very responsive. You can just move them with just very minimal movement, left, right, back up, roll back. They're carrying themselves on their hind end, so if you have to stop, you can stop very quickly. You can turn very quickly and go another direction. They're just easier to ride, and it's actually more fun to ride. The first step to be able to ride and train your own horse is to know that no matter how much you read or watch, there's always going to be new ways of doing things, and you need, for your sake and your horse's sake, to please keep an open mind. You know, my grandma used a term which is not real, doesn't sound real good, but there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way to ride a horse. One is no better than the other, but some certainly make it a lot easier and safer. So just learn anything and everything you can, from your horseshoer to your trainer to your friends to your vet, and use those all as tools to put in your toolbox, because you're constantly going to be adding and taking out of that toolbox as long as you're working with horses. Al's techniques and the horse psychology that he talks about have helped me tremendously, and I've gotten to see that really up close. I adopted a Mustang a little over a year ago, and she came from a herd, so I've always had my own herd, but introducing a real wild horse into the herd, I've really been able to see what he talks about, you know, dominant behavior, you know, linking up with your horse, communicating with him, watching how they establish respect in the herd. We don't bite or kick our horses, but they certainly do that to each other. And I'm lucky enough that I'm able to have horses in a somewhat naturalistic environment. So I have currently 4 horses kind of just roaming free on a small ranch, and they're not pinned up or corralled. So when I drive in, they swarm my Jeep, they swarm me, and I have to constantly be on my guard because I'm in the herd with him. And everything that he said I can identify with, because they do not see me as a person, I'm just another horse. So the body language, getting too close, respect of space, everything he said is true, and I get to live it every time I go out and work with my horses, so I do feel lucky for that, and it does show me he knows what he's talking about. What I would tell someone as far as why they should consider maybe using Al's method is something that I live with every day, is my love of horses, but my fear of getting hurt. I have gotten hurt. I've hurt ribs, I've busted my tooth, I've gotten stepped on, I've had injuries, so I'm around horses and I want to ride them and do somewhat maybe daring things on them. Just being on a horse can be daring, and I think anything we can do to make our riding safer, which in turn builds up our self-confidence, which improves our riding, which improves the amount of fun that we have, which fuels our passion for it. It's all this self-fulfilling prophecy. And so with Al's method, I have built up my self-confidence quite a bit and worked through some fears. I still have them, but with his double reins, the Australian saddle, and a helmet, and just trying to learn knowledge and seek knowledge, I feel I'm upping my odds to having a safe, fun ride, and it keeps me in the saddle. It keeps me going.
Cool. That's it.
Okay.